Hello everyone, and welcome. I want to start today by asking you to think about January 1st. You know that feeling, right? The fresh start. You sit down with a notepad and you map out the new you. You tell yourself, this year I'm going to exercise for an hour every single day. I'm going to read 50 books. I'm going to learn French. You feel incredible. You are surging with motivation. You do it for 3 days, maybe a week, maybe even 2 weeks if you're disciplined, but then life happens. You have a stressful day at work, you get a cold, you feel tired, suddenly that 1 hour workout feels like climbing Mount Everest. You miss one day, then two. And by February, the new you is gone. And you're back to the old you, but with an added layer of guilt. Why does this happen? Why do we fail over and over again to stick to positive changes? Most of us think the problem is us. We think, I'm just lazy, I have no discipline, I'm weak. But what if I told you that you aren't the problem? What if the problem is your strategy? What if trying to force yourself to do big things is actually biologically designed to fail? Today, we are going to explore a book that challenges everything you think you know about discipline. It's called Mini Habits, written by Stephen Guise. This isn't a book written by a guru who meditates on a mountaintop. It was written by a regular guy who was just as frustrated as you are. And his solution is so simple, so almost laughably small that you might be tempted to dismiss it, but don't. Because this strategy is built on neuroscience, and it is arguably the most effective way to hack your brain into consistent action. The core premise of this book is smaller habits, bigger results. Let's go back to late 2012. Stephen Guise was sitting on his couch. He wanted to get fit. For years, he had been trying to start a workout habit. His goal was standard. I want to exercise for 30 minutes a day. On this particular day, he was sitting there trying to psych himself up. He tried listening to upbeat music. He tried visualizing his ideal body. He tried yelling at himself, but nothing worked. He felt glued to the couch. The idea of 30 minutes of sweating felt overwhelming. He was paralyzed by the size of his own goal. Then out of desperation, he had a weird thought. He thought, okay, 30 minutes isn't possible right now. What if I just do one push-up? What? One push-up? It sounded ridiculous, it was pathetic, but he realized that he couldn't argue with it. It required zero motivation. It required almost zero effort. So he got on the floor, did one push-up. When he stood up, he realized something interesting. His back didn't hurt. He wasn't tired. In fact, he felt a tiny spark of energy since he was already in position. He thought, well, I might as well do a few more. So he did. Then he decided to do one pull-up, then a few more. Before he knew it, he had exercised for 20 minutes. He was shocked. He had failed to motivate himself to do a 30-minute workout, but he had successfully tricked himself into a 20-minute workout by aiming for just one push-up. This was his eureka moment. He realized that for years he had been fighting the wrong battle. He had been relying on motivation when he should have been relying on willpower. This distinction is the foundation of the book. Let's talk about the motivation trap. We love motivation. It feels good. It's that surge of adrenaline you get after watching a Rocky movie or a TED Talk. But Stephen Guise argues that motivation is unreliable. It is a feeling, and feelings are based on how you slept, what you ate, your stress levels, and your hormones. If your strategy for change depends on feeling like it, you're building your house on sand. Because I guarantee you there will be days when you do not feel like it, and if you need motivation to act on those days, you will do nothing. Motivation operates by the law of diminishing returns. The first time you go to the gym, it's exciting. The 50th time, it's a chore, it's boring. The motivation evaporates just when you need it the most. So if motivation is a fair weather friend who is the reliable partner, it's willpower. Willpower is not a feeling. It is a muscle. It is a resource. You can force yourself to do things you don't want to do. But here is the catch. Willpower is limited. Think of your willpower like a battery bar on your phone. Every time you make a decision, resist a cookie, or force yourself to focus at work, the battery drains. When you try to start a big habit, like running 5 miles, it costs a huge amount of willpower battery to get started. If your battery is low because you had a hard day at work, you won't have enough charge to start the run. You will fail. This is where the mini habit comes in. A mini habit is a behavior that is stupid small, not kind of small. I mean, stupid small, it is doing one push-up. It is reading one page. It is writing 50 words. It is meditating for 30 seconds. The genius of this is that the willpower cost of a mini habit is almost zero. It takes no mental energy to convince yourself to do one push-up. Even if you're exhausted, even if you're depressed, even if you have a headache, you can do one push-up because the cost is so low. You never run out of battery. You can do it every single day without fail. And this consistency is what changes your brain structure. But you might be thinking, okay, but one push-up isn't going to get me a six-pack. Reading one page isn't going to make me a scholar. What's the point? That is a valid question. And the answer lies in the neuroscience of how our brains resist change. To understand why stupid small works, we have to look under the hood of your skull. Inside your brain, there is a constant war going on between two specific areas. First, you have the prefrontal cortex. This is the part of your brain right behind your forehead. It is the manager. It's the CEO. It handles long-term planning, decision-making, and willpower. It's the part of you that says, I want to have a beach body, or I want to learn Spanish. It is smart, but it has a major weakness. It gets tired very easily. It consumes a lot of energy. Then deep in the center of your brain, you have the basal ganglia. This is the ancient, primitive part of the brain. It is the repeater. Its job is to recognize patterns and repeat them to save energy. It controls your current habits, like brushing your teeth or driving to work. It is not smart, but it is incredibly strong and it never gets tired. Here is the problem. The basal ganglia hates change. It views any deviation from your routine as a threat. When you say, I'm going to run for 1 hour today, your prefrontal cortex is excited, but your basal ganglia panics. It looks at this huge new behavior and says, whoa, that is different, that is scary, that requires too much energy, shut it down. And because the basal ganglia is stronger, it usually wins. It creates that feeling of overwhelming resistance that keeps you on the couch. This is where the mini habit is brilliant. It is a Trojan horse. When you say, I'm going to do just one push-up, your basal ganglia looks at that request and shrugs. It thinks one push-up. That takes 2 seconds. That's not a threat. Go ahead. It doesn't put up any defense. It doesn't trigger the resistance alarm. Your prefrontal cortex can easily handle that tiny request without draining its battery. So, you get down and you do the push-up. But here's the magic trick. Once you're on the floor, the resistance is gone. You have successfully bypassed the guard dog. And now another law of the universe kicks in, Newton's first law of motion. Sir Isaac Newton taught us that an object at rest stays at rest and an object in motion stays in motion. This applies to human behavior too. The hardest part of any workout is not the 20th push-up. It is the first one. The hardest part of writing is not the 5th paragraph. It is opening the laptop. The energy required to go from stopped to moving is massive. But the energy required to keep moving once you have started is tiny. Stephen Guise calls this physics for the mind. By setting the bar so low, one push-up, one sentence, 1 minute, you are focusing 100% of your energy on just overcoming that initial static friction. Once you start, you're in motion. And because you're a human being who likes closure, you will likely find yourself doing a few more. Guise calls these bonus reps. If your goal is one push-up, and you do 10, those extra 9 are free bonuses. You feel like a champion, you feel like an overachiever. This releases dopamine, the brain's reward chemical, instead of feeling guilty for missing a 1-hour workout. You feel proud for crushing your one push-up goal. You're training your brain to associate exercise with success, not failure. And let's say you have a truly terrible day. You are exhausted. You really only do one push-up. Guess what? You still win. You kept the streak alive. You reinforced the neural pathway in your basal ganglia that says, I am the kind of person who exercises every day. This is how you build a habit. A habit is not built by intensity. It is built by frequency. It is better to do one push-up every day for a year than to do a 30-minute workout once a month. So we understand the science. We know that stupid small habits sneak past our brain's defenses and use physics to keep us moving. But how do we actually play this game without cheating? How do we stop our ambitious brains from secretly turning one push-up back into 30 minutes? Because if your brain suspects that one push-up is just a trick to make you do a full workout, the resistance will come back. To make this work, you need to follow a strict set of rules. You need the mini habits rules of engagement. The most important rule is this: never lie to yourself. This is where most people mess up. They hear about mini habits and think, okay, I'll set my goal at 1 push-up, but I actually plan to do 20. If you do this, you will fail. Your brain is smart. It knows when you're bluffing. If you secretly aim for 20, you will feel the resistance of 20, and you will quit. You have to be genuinely 100% happy with just 1 push-up. If you do 1 push-up and stop, you must celebrate. You must say, I did it, I won the day. If you do more of those bonus reps, that's great.
But they are optional. They are the cherry on top, not the cake. The cake is the 1 push-up. Always keep your expectation low and your hope high. Never let your mini goals sneakily grow into a big goal. This leads to the phenomenon of target inflation. Let's say you do 20 push-ups for 2 weeks straight. Your brain will want to say, hey, I'm doing great. I should upgrade my requirement to 20 push-ups a day. Don't do it. The moment you raise the bar, you bring back the pressure, you bring back the chance of failure. Keep the requirement at 1. If you want to do 20, do 20, but the requirement stays at 1. This keeps your freedom alive. It ensures that even on your worst, sickest, busiest day, you can still succeed. The next rule is when you feel resistance, back off and go smaller. Let's say even 1 push-up feels too hard. Maybe you're really depressed or exhausted. Stephen Guise says, go smaller. If 1 push-up is too hard, make the goal, get into push-up position. If that is too hard, make the goal, lay on the stomach on the floor. If that is too hard, make the goal, stand up from the couch. You keep breaking the task down until the resistance disappears. It sounds silly, but you're melting the mental barrier. Once you're lying on the stomach on the floor, the path to a push-up is wide open. This strategy works because it changes your relationship with yourself. For years, you have probably been beating yourself up. You set big goals, failed, and then called yourself a loser. This destroys your self-efficacy. Mini habits flip the script. You set a tiny goal, you win, you do it again. You win. Day after day. You are winning. You start to trust yourself again. You start to believe, I am the kind of person who follows through, and eventually these small seeds grow. Just like a gardener doesn't pull on a plant to make it grow faster, you don't force a habit. You just water it every day with a mini habit. Nature takes over. You will naturally find yourself doing more. You will naturally find yourself reading 20 pages instead of 1, but it happens organically, without the stress, without the fight. Conclusion. So, here is the takeaway from mini habits. Stop fighting your brain. Stop relying on motivation that isn't there. Stop trying to climb the mountain in 1 giant leap. Be the person with the embarrassing goals. Be the person who commits to flossing just 1 tooth. Be the person who commits to writing just 50 words. Because the person who reads 1 page a day reads 65 pages a year. The person who plans to read 50 pages a day but quits after a week reads nothing. Consistency beats intensity every single time. Closing and call to action. Now I want you to take action on this right now. Don't wait for motivation. Open your dream life visual journal. I want you to pick 1 mini habit today. Write it down. Maybe it's drink 1 glass of water. Maybe it's read 1 paragraph. Go do it. It will take you 30 seconds. Then come back and check off today's date. Feel that tiny hit of dopamine. That check mark is the sound of you winning. And finally, add Mini Habits by Stephen Guise to your cozy library, Notion template. Keep this book close. Whenever you feel stuck, whenever you feel overwhelmed by a big project, open this book and remember, the step is too big. Make it smaller, make it stupid small, and you will be unstoppable. Start small, finish big. Thank you for listening.